We're in a new era of Doctor Who. New creative team, new Doctor, new companion. It's all very exciting when this happens. It always feels like the possibilities are endless. Today we're going to look back on season 1 of Doctor Who. So discussing the entirety of this new season does mean, I think, quickly dipping our toes into the 60th anniversary specials. Showrunner Russell T Davies treated Doctor Who audiences to the returns of fan favourites David Tennant and Catherine Tate as the Doctor and Donna, who would feature in 3 specials. Special 1 is The Star Beast, based on a comic strip that has a loved villain in the form of Beep the Meep. This episode did sort of work as a sequel to Russell's first era by giving off similar vibes to that earthly feel. Donna has a daughter now, her family are trying to keep her memories of the Doctor distant so she doesn't die, and UNIT are investigating aliens that crash land on Earth. This feels very familiar, it feels very Russell, and there are some great moments within this. I think the Meep is easily a standout character, and I am still waiting to find out who the Meep's boss is, Russell. Shirley is a fantastic addition to the UNIT family. Rose is a great character with a really nice scene between Donna and Sylvia that handles the topic of transgender people in everyday life. But there are some moments where the episode falls flat. The 14th Doctor randomly has a supersonic screwdriver that can do so much you may as well not worry for any of the characters' safety. And although Donna getting her memories back is a good scene, there is also something hollow about reversing the impact of that Series 4 finale. Special 2 is Wild Blue Yonder, which I think has been renowned as a bit of a fan favourite, particularly on my Twitter, or X, or whatever the hell we call it these days. However, there is something about Wild Blue Yonder that I didn't really enjoy. Although David and Catherine were excellent and the villains were original and very creepy, I feel that we wasted an anniversary special on watching the Doctor and Donna walk around a spaceship, interact with a very slow robot, and have one of the most ridiculous villain defeats in the entire 60 years of Doctor Who. The highlights were the beginning of the supernatural elements with the salt and the appearance of Bernard Cribbins as Wilf at the end of the episode. Special 3 is the Giggle. This felt very much like a proper Russell T Davies finale. The world felt like it was ending, everyone needed the Doctor's help, a classic villain was back and was on their A game. I give this episode props for actually feeling like a celebration of 60 years. I don't need constant cameos to keep me appeased, but the Star Beast and Wild Blue Yonder did feel like we were only celebrating Russell's time on the show. So this episode was nice to sort of stretch the 60th feeling. It was nice to have Mel turn up, UNIT featuring properly with like Queen Kate Stewart, and have mentions of characters like Sarah Jane Smith, Adric and River Song. The Giggle also featured the Toymaker, a villain that Doctor Who fans have long awaited the return for. His return, although not amazing, was very satisfying. He was a worthy villain with some really cool scenes, his puppet show being an absolute highlight for me because I'm a huge fan of the Moffat era. He also mentions the One Who Waits, which kickstarts one of the many threads that Season 1 tries to juggle. The Toymaker then tried to kill the Doctor, but instead we got Bi-Generation, where our new 15th Doctor arrived on the scene. Ncuti Gatwa arrives to Doctor Who like he's always been there. He commands the role of the Doctor and takes control of the entire episode. Unfortunately, I do feel the episode falls apart around him, but I confidently say that he is the glue that holds it all together. The Bi-Generation isn't my favourite thing. They destroy the unbeatable Toymaker with a game of catch. There's now 2 TARDISes because why not? And the 14th Doctor is just out there living with Donna with his own TARDIS in the back garden that just sits there and gathers dust, I guess. But I felt excited for the future of the show. Ncuti's Doctor came in with such promise that Season 1 was going to deliver. Cut to Christmas Day 2023 and we are watching Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor come face to face with his new companion Ruby Sunday. Both Ncuti and Millie are incredibly likeable in this episode and their chemistry is very clear from the get-go. One of my issues with the bi-generation is I do feel we were robbed of seeing a freshly regenerated 15th Doctor. Ncuti is such a good actor, so to see him not quite in control of his body and mind yet would have been fabulous, and him trying on different outfits, him realising that he is the Doctor, all of that good stuff was taken away from us, and I'm still not sure that I like it. But that being said, The Church on Ruby Road is a fun Christmas special that features Davina McCall and singing goblins. All of which might sound ridiculous, but it is Christmas. I'm always willing to not be a total Scrooge and let the Christmas specials get away with just a tiny bit more ridiculousness than the normal episodes. There were some really interesting beats as well. Ruby Sunday was dropped at the church on Ruby Road, hence the title, by a mysterious woman. Ruby is desperate to find out who her mum is, and that sets up the entire plotline for the first season of this new era. Then the Doctor takes Ruby on a trip throughout time and space, and this is what we like. This is what good, proper Doctor Who is. Except, sadly, Ruby was treated to one of the worst opening episodes in the 60 years of the show. Space Babies. Space Babies opens with silly gags of the Doctor taking her to see dinosaurs, where she wonders what would happen if I stepped on a butterfly. She then steps on one and becomes this weird butterfly person, until the Doctor reverses it. Now I do sound like a Scrooge, because I really dislike them flying in the TARDIS and her becoming half butterfly. This kind of stuff has never been necessary before, and I don't think it's going to be necessary after. All I got from it was, look at our Disney budget, we can do so much more than we did before. Ruby is also robbed of learning about the Doctor organically as the season progresses. He just sort of spouts out his entire history to her in this big chunky paragraph. And I sort of understand that this is likely to introduce Doctor Who to the new Disney Plus audience, but it just felt cheap and it felt very quick, and Russell's first series back in 2005 worked so well because Rose was learning about the Doctor and his life at the same speed as the new audience. I feel like Ruby and the new audience were just given a bit of word vomit and had to deal with it. And then the episode focuses on terrible talking babies, a bogeyman, a nanny, a ship that was powered by farts or nappies or something. I can't even remember because I have literally deliberately deleted it from my memory. It was a poor first outing for the new pair, and I was extremely worried that the new era of Doctor Who was going to leave very little to be desired. I did have higher hopes for the second episode. Jinx Monsoon is a drag queen that I am very much a fan of. I went to see her in London back in 2016 and her show was sensational. Knowing we were going to meet Maestro was something that I couldn't wait for. And Maestro delivered. I love when Doctor Who isn't afraid of its campy nature, and this episode delivered it properly to me. Not awful babies or poo talk, but extra villains, a bit of that camp flair. Didn't even mind the dance number. It's all down to personal taste, but this is the kind of camp that I like. For an episode that was built up to be about the Beatles, it wasn't really about the Beatles. However, I didn't care because Maestro stole every single scene that they were in. The episode isn't terrible, but it's not going to blow you away either, but I'll be shocked if people weren't having as much fun as Jinx Monsoon. A moment that really stood out for me was Ruby having a secret song. Carol of the Bells plays, taking us back to the church on Ruby Road, reminding us all that we have no idea who Ruby is and where she comes from. Maestro also brings up the one who waits in this episode, truly making the audience remember that there are multiple threads going on at once. The Devil's Chord for me would have been a banging opening. Perhaps Maestro would have been too soon after the Toymaker, but I really think going back in time to see the Beatles would have been a much better setup for the companions' first trip than Space Babies. Then came episode 3, Boom, written by Stephen Moffat. I'm a sucker for a Moffat script, always have been, always will be. His episodes from season 1 to season 10 were often the highlights and my favourites. Boom delivered at feeling like a proper good episode of Doctor Who. After all the fun and camp, I was really ready for something gritty. It had nice callbacks to Genesis of the Daleks for the classic fans, but it's not so in your face that it's going to ruin anything for the new fans. The world building was great, the concept was great. The characters were great, and this episode really allowed for Ncuti Gatwa to shine as the Doctor, maybe for the first time since the specials. I don't have much more to say about this episode because I just really, really liked it. After Shooty had a moment to shine, it was only fair that Millie gets one too. So then we get 73 Yards, a spookier episode that taps into the supernatural elements of Doctor Who. The Doctor is gone, a woman has appeared 73 yards away from Ruby Sunday, and she's got to work out what it all means. My initial gripes with this episode was the lack of theme tune. I know it's such a small, tiny thing, but just give me my silly blue box flying through the vortex. There's never been a good reason to not have the theme tune, and I feel like episodes like The Woman Who Fell to Earth, Resolution, did that have the theme tune? I can't remember. And this episode immediately feel unfinished because it's not there. And then I got annoyed at the Doctor as well because he stepped on something after literally having an entire episode of him stood on a mine. It's like, just look where you're going, Doctor. Just use your eyeballs for once. It's not that hard. The episode started off really strong. The creepy woman appears, she scares people away. Ruby goes to the pub, and the locals are all a bit off. They know spooky stories, and the vibes were immaculate. I was really enjoying my Welsh horror episode of Doctor Who. Ruby even goes home, and the woman that stood 73 yards away scares or angers Ruby's mum so much that she abandons her, and Ruby has no choice but to turn to Unit and speak with Kate Stewart. So lovely to see my queen. But even that goes tits up because the spooky woman is just that spooky. Then the episode just falls really flat to me, which is a bit of an unpopular opinion, I think. But the politics, the time jumps, the ending, the reveal, the Uno reverse card, it was all just a bit empty feeling, and I didn't feel any sense of build-up or satisfaction. Just what was the lady saying that made everyone freak out? I want answers, and like not all answers, I like a bit of mystery, but just some answers. Dot and Bubble was advertised and I thought that it looked like a fierce contender for the worst episode of Doctor Who, but actually found myself really enjoying it. A utopia society in fine time where things are fine all the time starts to go wrong when people are being eaten by slugs, but no one has noticed because we spend too much time focused on technology. Doctor Who's always pretty good when it does a social commentary on how we take technology for granted or always accept the newest upgrade or app without a single thought. Rise of the Cybermen does this concept really well with earpods. Bells of St. John similarly does a really good job with how easily we accept and rely on Wi-Fi. Dot and Bubble was really fun, but it was the latter half of the episode where it rose up in my estimations, with Lindy being one of the most diabolical characters in the show's history. Ricky's death was jaw-dropping, and the people of Fine Time's reaction to the Doctor was harrowing. Like, honestly, keep going, slugs, just eat all the racists. Then we had Rogue, the Bridgerton episode of the series, and it was fun. And I like when Doctor Who is fun. Jonathan Groff guest starred as Rogue, we had balls, we had dance scenes, one of the sexiest characters ever, and even a love story. It ticked a lot of boxes that a cute one-off episode of Doctor Who should. I had a fun time. I saw a lot of people unsure about the Doctor's immediate take to Rogue. The Doctor isn't often one for falling in love, and it outwardly doesn't happen at all. But I'm gay, so I enjoyed the romance. Some people complain that the Doctor wouldn't love a bounty hunter, but he literally did marry a psychopath assassin, so maybe that's his type. My only gripe with Rogue, as much as I had fun with it, is that we had only been given 8 episodes of Doctor Who this year, and Rogue is ultimately quite a skippable episode with no real build-up to the finale, which begins with the legend of Ruby Sunday, where the Doctor acts like, in the last episode, he decided to find Unit and ask the questions, when, in reality, in the last episode, he was crying because his boyfriend went missing. It's nothing major, neither episode is ruined by it, but my Doctor Who OCD would just enjoy a bit more of a finale build-up before the finale. Even an episode as random as The Lodger managed to squeeze in Amy finding her wedding ring and the crack leaking out the light. It feels like a connection, even though The Lodger and the Pandorica Opens are miles apart in their vibe. It just felt like there was a connection, and I just wish we had more of that here in season 1. The Legend of Ruby Sunday is a great build to the end of this entire run. However, I do hate the TARDIS spinning into Unit. It shouldn't bother me as much as it does, but it does. We've had 60 years of the TARDIS appearing from thin air, and it's been fine. It's just one of those things that once again screams, look at our budget, look what we can do, and I hate it. But this episode kicks off the finale really nicely. If you couldn't tell, I really like Kate Stewart, and this episode really is her highlight. She mentions her dad in a really nice way, and she shows a really loving side to the Doctor when he needs it, but a fearsome side when he needs it too. She absolutely bosses it, standing up to an unknown enemy towards the end with, like, no ounce of fear. She is my everything. The other positives are the time window stuff in Unit. It's a really cool way of investigating the church on Ruby Road, and intensity ensues when the villain starts to appear. Really, really gripping stuff. Mrs. Flood delivers a really chilling scene, and it's all building so well to quite a dramatic cliffhanger where the one who waits is revealed to be Sutek. So while all of that was going on, and while all of that is good, we also have a character that has been appearing throughout the entire series. Susan. Classic companion Mel, who isn't screaming all the time anymore, is researching this potential villain and discovers that Susan is actually just really nice. But there's a mystery, because the Doctor and Ruby have been seeing Susan appear in Space Babies, The Devil's Chord, Boom, 73 Yards, Dot and Bubble, and Rogue. Susan has been a great part of this series, like a really fantastic actress, and I've been loving playing this Where's Wally game every week trying to find her. I wasn't overly keen on the Doctor jumping to the conclusion that Susan was his granddaughter. Like, if Susan was a really rare name, then maybe, but like, think back to Series 9 when the kid says that his name is Davros. Like, it's pretty obvious who the little boy is, but when a woman says they're called Susan, they could literally be anybody. Like, he's literally standing next to someone called Rose, but it doesn't mean she's Billie Piper, hun, does it? So much has built up to this finale. So many questions. Who is Ruby's mum? Why did she point at the Doctor? Who is the one who waits? Who is Susan? Why is she everywhere? Who's Mrs. Flood? Do we get the answers? Sort of. The Empire of Death, the big finale, is set to reveal the answers to all those questions, but some of them don't sit right with me. I can deal with Ruby's mum being a nobody. It's actually quite sweet. Normal people can be huge and big and bold, and I love that message, but are you seriously telling me that Sutek doesn't even know who she was? I even think bloody Davina could have been able to find an NHS nurse. You know, I just don't know if I buy the mystery of the mum. Why did she point at the Doctor? She didn't. She dramatically pointed at a lamppost to name her baby. I hate it. I don't even know why I hate it, but I hate it. Why is she dressed like she is about to talk to Claudia Winkleman and be a traitor? Why did she point so unnecessarily dramatically? Who is the one who waits? Sutek. I love this villain's big return, and it has been long overdue. Same voice after all these years. It is brilliant. At the cliffhanger, I wasn't too keen on the animalistic dog version, but I've grown to like it over the weeks. Him turning everyone to dust was a little bit Marvel, which is one of my issues with the Disney Plus era of Doctor Who. It all looks and feels very Marvel. And Doctor Who, you don't have to try to be Marvel. You're good enough, babes. When he turned Unit to dust, I was shook. I thought, wow, they've actually gone and done it. Like, Unit is dead. This guy is the villain. But then Mrs. Flood, Cherry, Carla, everyone else started to turn to dust, and you just know that that's not going to last forever. You know that they're going to reverse it, and that sadly took all the threat away. But the threat grew a little bit more when they villainised Mel. But that was quickly undone when they literally put Sutek on a lead and took him for walkies in the time vortex. Sutek deserved better. Who is Susan? Why is she everywhere? Well, Sutek was holding on to the TARDIS like an absolute gremlin and made little versions of Susan wherever the TARDIS landed between the Pyramid of Mars and now. Lots of Susans, lots of damage, pretty cool. But when you think deeper, you do get a little bit of a headache. Susan in Boom was an ambulance. She was already killing people. Can the ambulance blow Sutek's dust in people's faces from her screen? I don't think so. The one from Fine Time was actually from another planet, not Fine Time at all. I'm not even sure that the Doctor landed on that planet. The one from Rogue had already died. She was a portrait, so like, she didn't do her job very well, did she? So it's one of those Doctor Who moments where you've got to just enjoy it and not think too hard, I guess. Then they brought in Sian Clifford, who was amazing, but also so wasted. Doctor Who does have a habit of just wasting good actors. She is an outstanding actress, and she deserved so much more than random spoon lady. But the finale tied up some nice bows. Ruby found her mum, Sutek was destroyed, everybody lived, hooray. The Doctor and Ruby said goodbye, and it was also really sweet until they see each other again, and its impact is going to be dampened, like everything else. Although a nice finale, I'm not sure it was a good one. Not bad, not good, just nice. On the whole, season 1 of Doctor Who has been a very mixed bag. A bit fan wanky for a reboot of the show, but I really enjoyed the fun of the Devil's Chord and Rogue. I love the bleakness of Boom and hearing Ncuti say those terrific Moffat lines. Dot and Bubble was a welcome surprise. Space Babies can get in the bin. And the finale needs some work. But the story isn't quite over. Mrs. Flood still looms over us as the Deadpool of the Doctor Who universe. I'm intrigued, but I also don't care. So, I really, really hope they find their footing in season 2 and just nail it. I really want to like all 8 episodes. And I don't need them all to be depressing and epic and emotional, but I would just love them to be good, memorable stories. Please let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section down below. Did you like season 1? What would you change? Did you have favourite moments, favourite characters? Let me know. I love other people's opinions. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you very soon. Bye, Felicia!